This is Cam Jennings coming at you on behalf of epicconversions.com, and I want to welcome you to another episode of Thoughts on a Walk. Today, we're talking about holes in content again. More holes in content. I've kind of been on this wild tangent about holes in content. So we're going to do another one, and I believe this is either part 5 or part 6 of this series. I think it's part 5. This is part 5 of the series, I believe. So this is Holes in Content series, and it's part of Thoughts on a Walk podcast. So, let me give you some context for more holes in content. Okay, so when I first came into internet marketing, I started working on computer, trying to build an online business. One of the things that I noticed when I first started trying to build my email list was that people were constantly telling me, don't buy an email list. Do not go out there and try to purchase an email list. That's a no-no. You want to build your email list organically. You can buy traffic to get people to opt in. There's all these different things you can do to build an email list, but don't just go buy an email list, right? That's bad, right? And the reason why people say that's bad is because you don't know where those leads came from. You don't know, what those leads are all about. When you start trying to email those leads, you could basically, you could basically get in trouble with your autoresponder, your EMS, or whatever. You could get in trouble trying to mail those leads, basically. So the basic advice was don't buy an email list. Build an email list. Don't buy it, build it. Now, flash forward to today, 2024, and people are saying, you can buy a newsletter, They got websites like you can go to flippa.com, you can buy newsletters. And when I say newsletter, let me explain what I mean. I don't mean like newsletter packages like I sell, where you buy 14 emails about a certain subject. That's a newsletter package that I sell, okay? I'm talking about buying a whole newsletter. I mean someone has actually built a newsletter brand where they have started building this list of a bunch of people who care about whatever subject. It could be antique cars or anything. And maybe they've built a list of 5,000 or 6,000 people who care about antique cars, and every single week they send them out another email or a newsletter about the subject, right? And people sell those newsletters all the time. It's big business, in fact. Right now, it is big business to go to a website like Deuce.com, buy a newsletter, and you're going to see these newsletters selling for a lot of money, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, even sometimes over $100,000 for a newsletter of several thousand people. Now, what is it someone is buying for $15,000, $16,000, $20,000? Well, they're essentially buying an email list of people who care about a certain subject. All right? That's what it is to buy a newsletter. Well, buying and selling newsletters is big business right now. The problem is, if I go back 10 years, people are telling me buying an email list is a no-no. Don't buy an email list. Well, when people are buying and selling newsletters right now, that's exactly what they're doing. They're buying and selling email lists. Those two pieces of advice are in direct opposition of each other. So which is it? Do I either buy email lists and use them, or do I not buy email lists and use them? The heart of this is what I talked to you about at the very beginning, right? The reason why people were telling you not to buy an email list was because you don't know where those leads came from. You don't know if they are targeted. You don't know a lot about what's going on when you buy an email list. You have the other person's word to go on. Oh, I'm going to buy 1,000 leads in the biz op industry, or I'm going to buy 2,000 leads in the business help industry, whatever. You got their word to go on. Well, it's the same thing when you buy a newsletter. You got their word to go on that's a branded newsletter, and those people are engaged in that newsletter. You got, it's basically the same thing. There's a difference in terminology, but it's very semantic. This begs the question: what's the difference between just an email list and a newsletter? What's the difference? And let's explain this a little better, because an email list, you can send a newsletter to an email list. But what's the difference between a normal email campaign that just goes on regularly, where you've committed to emailing your list, let's say once a week or whatever? What's the difference between that and a newsletter? What's the difference? Because, it's confusing. What's the difference between normal email campaigns and newsletters? Well, if you start looking that up online, you're going to find all these little semantical, definitions, right? Oh, well, a newsletter is focused on value delivered. A newsletter is a different business model. Newsletters have advertisers and they don't charge the readers any money. Completely untrue sometimes. Newsletters can be paid newsletters. They can be free newsletters. So that's ridiculous. Yes, advertisers paying to advertise in your newsletter is a business model. Some newsletters do that, not all of them. Anyways, you'll find this definition, like a newsletter focuses on value. This is a basic definition. A newsletter focuses on value, while a traditional email marketing campaign focuses on promotion. That's the basic difference they try to spit at you. But anybody who's familiar with email marketing truly understands that's absolutely ridiculous. And anyone who's familiar with newsletters truly understands that newsletters come in many different shapes and sizes. They all don't look the same. They all don't operate the same. The truth is, you have an email list you've built, and ideally you have warmed that list up to where they care about what you have to say and what you have to sell. Well, it's the same thing with a newsletter. You have built an email list up that all care about what you have to say and what you have to sell. There's truly no difference. So when you think about those two pieces of advice, never buy an email list, or buying email newsletters is big business, go for it, build one and sell it. They're at odds with each other. But what is the spirit of both of those pieces of advice? The spirit of both of those pieces of advice is pretty much the same, right? And the spirit of that advice is, get your email list to care what you have to say. Build trust with them. Build rapport with them. Build some kind of a relationship with them so that they care what you have to say and what you have to sell. Because it really doesn't matter what you call it. Newsletter, email marketing campaign, whatever you want to call it. If nobody cares what you have to say, then nobody's going to care what you have to sell. And to quote another historic figure, I think Theodore Roosevelt once said, nobody cares what you have to say unless they know that you care. Unless you let them know that you care. Something like that. I'm botching that quote. But the point is, that's part of the key of, building some of that trust and rapport with your email list. Doesn't really matter about terminology. Newsletter, email list, audience, tribe, the list goes on and on. Next year it'll be something else. The year after that it'll be something else. It's always something else. but the fundamentals of it stay the same. There's truly no difference between email campaigning to a list that's warm and engaged and saying, hey, I'm going to send a newsletter out to my list every single week. It's the same thing. So two pieces of advice that seem like they're at odds, but truly the spirit of them is the exact same piece of advice. Keep your list warm, keep it engaged, understand who's on your list, make sure you know what they're there for. Make sure you're not doing anything stupid to make people mad. So anyways, hope that helps. Hope this has resonated with you. If so, be sure to get over to epicconversions.com, sign up for my free newsletter. I email out 3 to 6 times a week. I like to think I put my best free content out by email. That's all I got. I'll see you in the inbox. Peace now.